Welcome to episode 71 of Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast. Hi, I'm Jill. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Chris. Yes, welcome to the podcast for the Becoming Ellie community. And if you're wondering who Ellie is, she was the Norse goddess of aging.
Thor was challenged to wrestle with Ellie, and to everyone's surprise, Ellie won. So Chris and I decided we wanted to be like Ellie.
Yes, we thought it was very appropriate. She was fit and strong. And of course, being the goddess of aging, we thought this was particularly on point.
Yes.
So, we're working to be healthy and fit and strong as we get older too.
Yes. And so the Becoming Ellie community is for women over 50 who are also interested in being fit and strong.
Yeah, you can find us on our Facebook group, our Facebook page. And then, of course, we have this private group along with Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, different social media. But I think the best place is our website, becomingellie.com.
Right. And Ellie is ELLI.
Oh, and Jill, I wanted to mention on our Instagram, we had a wonderfully interesting shout out from Liz DeVito. This quest I have to be fit needed to hear women in my age group. I'm so appreciative that I found you on Spotify. Your podcast is my treadmill go-to. When I look around in my gym at any time, I'm the only woman of my age. Your topics are relevant. I find your guests interesting. Looking forward to the next update. So welcome to the group, Liz. Isn't that cool?
Yes, thanks, Liz. Yeah, it is cool. And I know what she means sometimes about feeling like you're the only woman of your age in the gym or wherever, but you probably really aren't. But I certainly get that listening to us or having this community is certainly a big help.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of our listeners listen to this podcast while they're working out, whether they're walking or they're on a treadmill or what have you. So
yeah,
we're in this together.
Yeah.
As
so,
they say.
Well, thank you, Liz. That was a great comment, and how I really like that it was on Instagram because we don't get many comments on Instagram. So extra cool for that. Chris, today's episode certainly ties in with being fit and strong and healthy.
Yeah, our guest is really motivational, and I really love I think it's called, not an anachronism. I'm trying to blank.
It's not an anagram.
It's not an anagram. It starts with an A, and it means
acronym?
An acronym. That's it. Acronym. I keep thinking scuba. That always happens to me when I think of that because it's, but she has a wonderful acronym called SPARK, and we'll find out more about that in the podcast today.
Yes. So let's get to the podcast. I'm really delighted to talk with Haika Yates today. Haika is a fitness and nutrition expert and speaker helping women worldwide to stay fit for over 30 years. Her passion is empowering women over 50 to say, "Yes, I can." She helps them to take back their health and strength by showing them how fitness, nutrition, and mindset strategies combined to create a winning team.
Heike has developed a reputation for creating real-life solutions and lasting results. Heike is the creator of Pursue Your Spark, the 4-week lean out program, and host of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. She is also a bodybuilder, an ultra marathon runner, and she has completed an Ironman Triathlon.
Welcome, Heike, to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill and Chris. I'm delighted to be here.
Great. So we just said in your introduction that you work to empower women over 50 to say, "Yes, I can." What does that mean, and how do you do it?
That means that I create programs that are well-rounded with everything, as you mentioned, nutrition aspect, the fitness aspect, and the mindset aspect through my Spark system. And the Spark system is scanning, planning, taking action, overcoming roadblocks, and in the end, kicking ass to get the goals that we're looking for. Well, it's always got a little tough love at the end. And so I use that system, or I created that system in all my programs, whether it's individual training a client or group programs or the 4-week lean out program. I apply those steps so it makes sense and people can go, oh yeah, I just did this. Next step.
That's great.
Could you say what SPARK stands for again?
Totally. So S is for scanning. So it's scan, plan, action, roadblock, and kick ass are the five.
Okay. See, all
the
I
five
remembered
words.
was the kick ass part.
Everybody loves the kick ass, and they're like, people are like, "Did you just say that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did."
Oh, that's great.
So what would you say makes women over 50 unique? I mean, what is the difference for women over 50 compared to younger women or to men?
I think that many women in their 50s, first off, we're going through menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and then on to postmenopause, which changes everything for all of us.
Yes.
This is, and that's to men in itself. I know men have hormone changes too, but not as drastic as we have to deal with. And that's one aspect of it, that our physical body breaks down, that we're dealing with hormone surges and things that are related to the physical aspect. But what most importantly I find is that at this age, many of us who have children now have an empty nest. And we're looking at what is next in our life. That we're looking into what is the next story that I'm going to write? Who am I? What am I going to do going forward? Even if you're somebody who doesn't have children, I bet you go through the same thing by saying, okay, I reached my career goals. I reached the things that I wanted to accomplish. And now I'm older. Maybe I don't want to work so hard anymore. Maybe I want to do more traveling. But there is, I find, a distinct change in mindset and in the physicalities of doing things. And recently I was interviewed on a runner's podcast, and we're talking about training. And she asked me if I would interview somebody who's younger than 50. And I said, absolutely, I would do that. Why not? If it's a great story that my listeners would enjoy and learn from, absolutely. And she says, well, why is your training different? I'm a runner. And I'm like, wait till you're 50. You will experience the knee pain, the back pain, suddenly you're the back of the pack and not the front of the pack anymore. I said the physiology totally changes as you start aging.
That's true. Let's talk a moment about your program, Pursue Your Spark. And I mean, we just learned what Spark is, but what is that actual program?
The Spark program, I love it. First off, with the S, now we scan our life. First off, everybody calls the why now. It's your why. That's the word that you hear on the streets. Like, what's your why? And you're like, I have no idea. What do you want? Why do you want it? How do you get there? And these things. And so first we scan, and it is looking at what you've done, your past history, your present, your skills, your desires, and your biggest dreams. And with that aspect, as talking about over 50, it is oftentimes that we hold ourselves back and not go for what we want. We take care of everybody else. First it was the kids. Now it may be the parents that we have to take care of. And as a woman, we usually put ourselves somewhere in the back pocket and not do the things that we have been dreaming of. And so in the scanning part of the program is like we're looking at all these niches. And honestly, nobody wants to start there. Everybody wants to say,
I laugh because I was just thinking the same thing. I don't want to think about that. Why is it that no one wants to start there?
it's like, and we all can relate. We're all athletes.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, yeah, give me a program. Give me what to eat. Write me a nutrition profile and let's rock and roll. And we know that this may work sometimes, but in most cases, it's not. Or it lasts for a little while and then it's like back to square one. Or what we often hear too is, oh, this didn't work. I tried it all. It didn't work. Well, did you go back and look back that did you want to run because your friend Susie started running and you started with her and you actually didn't like it? Did you think about that maybe you should have gone to a Pilates class instead and tried that out because that's more along your lines? So thinking about these things that you enjoy, that you maybe are good at. Maybe you are a natural athlete. Maybe you're a natural gardener. Who knows? But this is the scanning part where you really gather information. And that's where I want everybody to start. And all my programs start with this. And I'm sure some of them skip over that part and go to the planning part, which is the P.
Right.
So once you gather all this, once you gather all this information, you've got to plan something. So you take what you've gathered and then you divide it up into where do we need the most work? What are we the best at? What are we not so good at? What can we do at the moment with the time and the lifestyle that we have? And if you're somebody who is a caretaker of parents, your time will look very different than like for myself. My kids are grown. They're in their 30s. I have a husband and we can just do whatever we want when we want to do it. And so you're looking at this aspect in the planning phase and you're going, okay, what can I do physically, mentally, time-wise? And then we're putting a program together with that in mind. And then you take action. So you take what you just gathered, all this information, and off you go to the races. And you're doing your darnest best to stay consistent, which again goes back to, can I really do this more than just 2 weeks? Yeah, it needs a little bit longer to actually see if what we put together works for you, because not everything works for everybody. When you think about that, people are like, yeah, I coach intermittent fasting. And people are like, yeah, I'm going to start intermittent fasting. And we're going through that same process. It's like, is that really good for you? Is that right for you? It may not be it, or using a marathon. I mean, I got into marathon running by accident, literally.
An accident?
No, not an accident, by accident, meaning that I really hadn't planned on running. I was like, really? I need to run? I don't know. I think I keep teaching aerobic classes. For many years, I was teaching fitness classes and I taught spinning and fitness training classes and God knows what. But this phase of my life died down a little bit. And so I felt I wasn't as strong anymore. And I said, okay, I got to do some cardiovascular training. I got to do something for my heart. And at that point, I said, well, the easiest thing is to run around the block. And I was like, running, me, oh, nee, look at all these people in their little short shorts and their caps and all this and the water bottles. And I started out with running around where I used to work in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. It was this 3-mile loop. And I would do that twice a week. And I was like, well, I'd rather dance around to music. That's more my thing, or teach a spinning class. But I'm not doing this right now. This is with the phase where I really got into Pilates. I was teaching primarily Pilates classes. And I said, I can run. And then one of my clients had a race ticket for the Cherry Blossom 10 miler. And she said, Heike, I can't run it. Can you run the race? We're the same age. We look almost the same. And I was like, me? A 10 miler? She's like, it's really good. Come on, do it. And I was like, sure. Why not? I can do it. 3 miler. I can do totally 10, right? Yeah. So I trained.
That's only 7 miles difference.
So yeah, why not? And it seems to be the theme of my life. This is how I get myself accidentally into all kinds of things, bodybuilding included. But so I ran the Cherry Blossom 10 miler, loved it. I said, this is amazing. I was like, this is great. I can do that. Finished, got my t-shirt. And then I thought, heck, if I can run 10, I probably can run a marathon. It's like, yeah, sure. Let's sign up for the Montgomery County Roadrunners Beginners Training Program for the marathon.
Oh, nice.
So I worked with them for 6 months for the beginning program. And eventually also I became a running coach to coach in their programs down the road. But I was like, sure, I can do 10. My husband's like, what? You're going to do 26 now? And so I was like, yeah. And I ran my 26. And the story goes on that I qualified for Boston in my first marathon.
Oh,
so
wow,
that was awesome.
But I have to say, you must have been younger or very physically in shape to go from 3 miles to 10 to 26. It sounded so easy the way you just said it. But you did a training program along the way, right? I just want to caution some of our listeners because I know people just jump right in and don't train sometimes.
Very good point.
Could you explain a little bit about that?
I think that my physical condition from training all these fitness classes helped me a lot. Because I had really good cardiovascular fitness from the spinning classes and the high intensity aerobics classes I was teaching.
Oh, yeah.
Plus the fitness training and the boot camp classes I was teaching. Plus I used to teach yoga as well. So I had a really good base to begin with. And that's so good that you point this out, because don't just jump in. It's not a good idea. You're going to be miserable and you're going to be potentially injured. It's not a good thing. But with that really good base that I had, I started the training program. And like I said, it was 6 months long, and it took somebody that was not well conditioned into the marathon program. And we had all these different pace groups. So you had to run a small race so they could put you in the right pace group for you not to run too much, and you could handle the distance. There was walking in there, and you were encouraged to do strength training on the side. So that's definitely something to pay attention. Don't just say, yo, I go and do a marathon.
Right.
But find a good coach, find a good training plan, and be smart about it. I had a different background from what I've done, and I didn't want to lose that cardiovascular fitness that I had. And that's what by accident got me into marathon running. So,
and you've done an ultra marathon?
Yes, that was another one. My friends are like, Heike, you can run a marathon. I'm sure you can do a 50 miler. I'm like, sure, why not? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, because I'm enthusiastic about everything. I'm always positive and like, yes, we can do this. And the same rules applied. I trained for it. I had friends who'd done it, who gave me a strategic planning of what to eat and how to train and how to strategize the whole race. And that was another really amazing experience. And the JFK 50 miler was just, one of my favorite things to do. Going back to the action step. So I took action, just like I teach in my programs, to take action. Probably for most people, not to that extreme extent of putting people into a marathon. It could simply be getting off the couch, getting around the block, getting moving, just all together. And then the R stands for roadblock, because nothing ever goes without a hitch. There's always something that stands in the way, whether it's time constraints, not having the right shoes. And when we talk about running, what is the right nutrition for you as a runner? What can your gut digest when you're running?
All right.
There's so many variables depending on what the individual's goals is. So we're digging around in the roadblocks and we're trying to get these roadblocks, which end up being excuses for not being successful. Oh, I got blisters because of these shoes. Well, let's get different shoes. Let's tackle these problems that pop up with whatever the choice is. Or somebody may say, man, I really got into gardening and I got this upper body strength program and the leg strength program you designed for me, but my back hurts. I can't do this. It's like, all right, let's work on core strength. So getting the roadblocks out of the way so people actually can go back and say, you know what? This is what I wanted to do. Is that still what I want to do? Do I still want to run a marathon? Let's stick with a marathon. Or is this really somebody else's goal? It's a roadblock too. If you took on somebody else's goal and that's not yours, and you realize after a while, you know what? I really don't care about this. I'd rather do the breast cancer 5K. I was like, all right, let's revamp the program. Let's look at what we need to do now to get you to this goal. And that's when K comes in and we're kicking ass. And we're taking action. We're taking all we've learned and planned and the action steps we took and the things and move the roadblocks out of the way into getting results. And this process is not a 2-week or 4-week process. This is a lifelong process, in my opinion. So that's what SPARK stands for.
That's great. I know that you've said that fitness and nutrition and mindset, they all create a winning team. And, each one of us struggles with parts. And the hard one for me is mindset. And so how do you suggest we work on that?
Mindset is a tough one. And that goes in my world also together with motivation. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I've been asked about, you are always motivated. You always look like you're ready to roll and you always eat healthy. I want to be like you when I grow up. And I was like, you don't see me on the days where I'm going. Like this morning, it is really, really cold. It's windy and I really did not want to go for my run. So I futzed around, as I like to call it, for a while. And I put on my clothes and my hat and my gloves and all this. And I know how good it will feel when I am done. And when you think about motivation, I can't give you motivation, or we can't give you the motivation to do something. You can look at somebody like me and say, wow, I want to be like Heike. But you're not me. So you have to find a way inside of you, something that lights you up, something that makes you happy. From my thinking, from being happy is where comes the motivation. This is where you start to take care of yourself more. You look inward of what it is that is important to you, to your health, to your mindset, to your overall being, and to your happiness. And then from there, you build. Because when you're thinking about you're really unhappy with your life, you're definitely not motivated to do anything. But if you go back and you scan and you find out why you may be unhappy, the steps you could take to overcome this state of maybe unhappiness and dissatisfaction and lack of motivation, then you can do, again, the mind work that helps you lay the ground to become more motivated. And it doesn't have to be doing something every day or being like gung-ho and super happy-go-lucky, but just make your life a little bit better, a little bit happier every day. Do a little bit in what I call baby steps. If you cook yourself try out a new recipe, you're like, I really don't like cooking, which I hear too often, is I don't like cooking. I'm like, okay, grab yourself a recipe that has 5 ingredients. I can handle this. You can handle this. And then once you completed this recipe, you're looking at it and you go like, dang, this was pretty darn good what I did here. I can do more. And this is how I think we get people to be motivated and get more of a drive to live a happier and more fulfilled overall life. Start somewhere where you feel that you want improvement, where you're not really happy with. And that may be a relationship.
Oh, so yes, of course, that all of this doesn't just connect to fitness and nutrition. Anything. Yeah,
Right.
our whole lives sort of tie into that. To sort of then build on what you just said about mindset, we're leaving what's been an extremely difficult year and moving into a new year that hopefully will be better. But how do you recommend we deal with so many difficulties? So when you have a plan and then you have a year like this where nothing goes as planned, any advice for us?
Got to stay flexible in mind and body. Think of the Roadblock example. I mean, this year has been one bam after the other. I mean, we're starting to close down already again here in Maryland. And COVID cases are really on the rise. And we all know we're working from home. We are eating more. We're stressed more. We're doing things that we normally wouldn't do, probably sit on the couch and watch the news and be depressed and miss our friends. I think that it comes back to overcoming the roadblock because and the mindset, because not everything is crap this year. Can you just picture this? You're running around every day. You have your job you have to drive to, you deal with traffic, then you work long hours, you have a gazillion meetings, and then you come home, you're exhausted because you can't get your workout in like you've planned, and you eat whatever is in the fridge or you order in and you really don't care anymore because you're way too tired and you're already planning for the next day. This has, for most people, gone away. I use my husband as an example. He used to drive from our house to work in the morning. It took him 45 minutes. He has, as I like to call it, a mazillion meetings. And then he comes home.
A mazillion.
A mazillion. I'm like, in my book, I'm like, are you sure you can have all these meetings? You're talking all day long. And he's like, that's my job. And then he drives home for at least an hour to an hour and a half sometimes. And that's because of this transition in his job. I became the chef in our house and I started cooking because I'm like, I can't expect you to cook in our house at 7 p.m. And then he comes home, he's tired. All he wants is a beer or a glass of wine. And he's like, I don't feel like exercise at all. And he schleps himself down onto the spin bike for like a half an hour. And that had become a little bit our days. And then COVID hit. No more driving, eating at home, still a mazillion meetings.
He just got 2 hours free because
free
no more
time.
commute.
No more commute. We can eat lunch at home. We can make our healthy lunches that we always make when we're at home. We exercise like this morning. Normally we start running together. This morning he's like, oh, I'm going to run after my first meeting because I have a break. So he went running, took a shower. I'll meet him for lunch. We have a little lunch date like we do every day. And then he goes back and the rhythm has changed. And I wish more people would. I get it. If you are being jobless and you're about to be evicted, that's a whole different ballgame. But for the other people, like our example is, you can actually slow down more. and take a step back and really, instead of going, oh, watching news all the time, being freaking stressed all the time, talking about negative things in your life or how bad so-and-so dealt with this or all this negativity, step back and see the world in a positive light. We have more time. We have less stress if we choose to turn off the news.
Right.
And we choose to have happy and positive friends. I find it so interesting in this day and age. There are certain job opportunities out there. People are switching jobs because they hate the job they have. And I'm like, really? We have 4 million people unemployed. It's like, yeah, in my niche of technology, I found a new job. So spend more time with people that mean something to you. Your family, your spouses, your friends, even if it's on Zoom. And yes, we're all zoomed out. And we're going back now with winter, we're going back to Zooms. But I feel that too many people focus right now on what's not good instead of stepping back and saying, you know what? This is an eye opener. Do we really need the rat race? And actually, it's funny that you asked me that question. I thought about this morning when I finished my run. I did a reel for Instagram. I drank my tea and I was thinking, this is a pretty damn good day. And now I'm in an interview. And it's thinking of what is the positive part in your life and keeping yourself safe and, keeping the distance, wearing your mask, washing your hands, doing all this. This will pass too if we all contribute to a better view of where we are right now. I mean, in 1918, we had a huge pandemic and it lasted for 4 years, if I'm correct with this. I'm not sure though.
You're pretty close, I think.
Yeah, it lasted more than just a year and we've only been in there only 8 months. That's what I would say to this. I know this is a long answer to probably a short answer, but I feel very strongly about, because I talk with my kids about this too. And my daughter in particular, who's completely changed her life into a more Zen way of living. And she's like, Mom, enjoy that you don't have 10 clients a day. Yes, it's less money, but it's more time for you. And what are you going to do with that time you have? You choose. And I'm like, this is brilliant.
I'm just going to interject my own little story here about Zoom. I have started a book club with Zoom with people that I haven't seen in decades, some of them. And it's been really nice to once a month get together with these women that I wouldn't be seeing normally. So you're right. There are positives to all of this.
Yeah, I agree. And that's fun, a book club. I'm still trying to join a book club. I haven't done that yet.
Well, so there's a handful of us, and we just once a month get together on Zoom and have fun. It's nice.
We're getting close to the new year, and a lot of folks like to set New Year's resolutions or goals for a new year. And I'm wondering, particularly with your scan and plan part of Spark, what would you suggest? How would you suggest we go about that? What types of things would you suggest we look at?
Well, I'm very simple when it comes to that, meaning don't set a New Year's resolution. In my point of view, it's nonsense that every January we're going to go, oh, yeah, I'm going to lose weight. Oh, yeah, I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to whatever. And then a few months down the road, the plans have fizzled out. We don't need this. And I don't know who even came up with the idea of making this big thing at the beginning of the new year. Yes, starting something new, starting something fresh. But you can do that today. You don't have to wait till January 1st or, to lose the proverbial 10 pounds in January. Yeah, now I'm going to pound down all the Thanksgiving food I can eat, all the cookies I can make and bake. And then I'll repent in January and be good again, which I hear often too. I've been good, I've been bad. I don't like the notion of setting New Year's goals the goals that you set are lifelong goals, which can change, of course. But I think when you set baby steps in one particular area of your life that you scanned and you said, I really want to eat more vegetables. You got to plan that too. How do I get these vegetables in? Maybe you don't like vegetables, but you can start any day, and it doesn't have to be that big, in my opinion, this big explosion moment that only lasts for a while, because it only lasts for a while for most people. And if you want to change something in your life, start today. Look at your life today and don't wait for a magic date to give you the answers to your prayers.
Good idea. Good idea, for sure.
Yeah, that sort of eliminates I'm going to start my healthy eating on Monday.
Right.
When it's Wednesday. It's a long time to think about it.
And it is. And that's when you think about, if you have dreams, that's why we're scanning, write down your dreams and your plans and your things. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that difficult. And that's why I think that the diet and the fitness industry is how do I want to say this nicely, is taking advantage of people's desperation. And that to me is more like the New Year's resolution. It's like, oh, I'm selling you a new gadget. I'm selling you a new supplement, and that will make your dreams come true. And I totally reject that notion. So I'm like, start now, do something today. Don't wait, because we only live for so long, and we're seizing the day is the way to go.
Seize the day.
Seize the day.
Carpe diem.
Mm-hmm.
We've sort of talked about resilience and being adaptable, but how do you actually help women develop those skills?
Through the SPARK method.
Oh, okay.
And keep going with it and keep going back. And the resiliency comes by being consistent, repeating a process repeating a repeatable process over and over. And as you get good at something, you add something else that you get maybe better at or just improve on. And I think when I think about the resilience, it's really repeating something consistently to get to the goals that you've set.
We talk a lot about motivation and commitment for being fit and strong here on the Becoming Ellie podcast. So what advice do you have for us to stick to our eating plans or our exercise plans, to stick to it?
Don't have a plan.
Pardon me?
Don't have a plan.
No plan.
Don't have a plan. Because it's like when you think about the eating plan, I'm thinking more like, there was more a cheeky kind of answer. It was more like, give me a plan. What do I eat for breakfast? What do I eat for lunch? What do I eat for dinner? It's like, no, the eating plan is eat from all food groups. In my opinion, and in my world, there's nothing that's off limit. You can eat what you want, when you want it, and how much you want it. But take responsibility for what you do. Meaning, if you are wanting to eat 5 vegetables a day, and that's like, okay, this is my plan. I'm going to eat 5 vegetables a day. And and I used to have a client like this when I started working with her. I said, all right, we need to change your diet of what you're eating currently into a more healthful way. Because she was eating all kinds of things like from Starbucks and drive-throughs. And I was like, well, let's just get some vegetables in. And she's like, I can't stomach vegetables. I hate vegetables. I was like, ooh, this is going to be a tough one. What are you going to do with somebody that doesn't want vegetables? Like, nothing? I mean, I get it if you don't like broccoli. And she's like, no, oh my God, I can't stand vegetable. I'm like, what have you eaten in your life? She's like, I eat fruit. I'm like, okay, that's a good start. And so with her, we started with fruit juices that included vegetables as well. So she would get her vegetable in. And then over about the course of about 2 years, I got her to now saying, okay, I'm eating more vegetables. I actually eat vegetables now. And slowly into the process of where she doesn't mind. She still is not like crazy about them, but she eats them now. And I said, when it comes to eating, we all have a goal. And the goal may be, I just want to eat healthier. The other ones, somebody say, I want to lose weight. The next one person has gut problems. So it depends on what the person's personal goals are when it comes to nutrition. But an overarching theme that I teach is you eat whatever you want, however you want it. There's nothing off limits, but I would encourage you to eat healthful. Eat healthy fats, lean proteins, lots of vegetables, limited amount of fruits, whole grains, something that supports your system and your whole energy, your fitness level, your mindset. When you eat healthy, your brain works a heck of a lot better. And if you, instead of feeding it French fries, you maybe use a steamed potato with a little salt on top, your gut will be happier digesting that as opposed to the fatty foods. It is tough sometimes to change or find a right way of eating. Over my 30 years in the fitness industry and with all my sports I've done, I've learned so much about different aspects of nutrition and different angles. As a sports nutrition coach, too, it's like you look at it and you go like, just eat healthy. Maybe just eat a little bit better if you're really like the way you eat. Better, as in the example of the French fries. Maybe you want to choose the baked potato instead. Just once a week. And make those little changes that help you just live healthier. And how can you perform when you don't eat balanced? When you don't eat from all food groups? And there's all these nutrition camps out there that claim that if you're leaving out your carbs, you will get to whatever goal they're promising you. Or if you don't eat fruit for the next 6 weeks, something else will happen. Or balanced. Everything in my world is about balance. It's almost like cross training. Cross train your food. You wouldn't just want to, right? You wouldn't just want to eat beef all day long. You want to have a little bit of flexibility and get some vegetables in there. So cross train your foods as well.
That's a great way to think of it. You're obviously not going to pursue the carnivore diet. I really like that. Cross train your food.
Well, variety is the spice of life, right?
Yes, it makes total sense, right?
Well, I've heard eat the rainbow, do all the different colors and things. And it does make sense. Your body builds up, food insensitivities or sensitivities to certain things. If you only eat the same thing all the time, that it does make a difference.
Yep. And when you think of how the body functions, it needs, let's use healthy fats, omega-6 and 3, for the fluidity of the joints and the muscles. I mean, you can't be without it. You get brittle. And this is what you see oftentimes when people get older. Like my oldest client is 94. And when you see what people tend to eat as they get older, their taste buds go away or are not as keen. Their smell is not as strong as it has been. So to them, everything tastes the same. And you literally have to put something in front of them, the rainbow, the fatty, the healthy fats, and all this for them to eat it, because otherwise they wouldn't, what I've learned through working with my clients, they wouldn't choose these things. They're like, all taste the same. Don't need it. But the body needs it to function better. And it's like, we oftentimes hear that food is fuel, which I also think is to reject that notion. Food is energy. Think of the food that you eat provides the energy for you to function, and not only the body but also the mind.
Food is not fuel. Oh, so it's the actual energy. It's not that it's.
We're not a car. We're not a car going, here, give me some gas, get going.
Right. Okay.
That leads into our next question about nutrition. Because you are a nutrition coach, how do you go about coaching? How do you recommend what your clients eat?
Basically, I start with habits first, eating habits. And we're going back to the scanning process. What do clients actually eat? So you have a food log for 3 days. So you get an idea of what somebody actually eats as opposed to what they're telling you they eat. And going back to the goals that they have with the nutrition plan. It's like if you say, I just want to eat healthier or better, I want to lose weight, or I want to have more energy, or I want to help my gut issues. So it depends what the intake form will be. But in essence, it is oftentimes changing habits that makes a huge difference in many of my clients' life. They don't know what to choose. They look at something that they've been taught from childhood on. I mean, I'm German. I grew up with lots of meat and potatoes and gravy. And we rarely eat that anymore. It is way too much food. It's way too heavy for many people's lifestyles. And so you're looking at where the holes are of what they need help with. It's like the example earlier, I want to eat 3 more servings of vegetables a day. It has to be a doable, repeatable habit again that somebody can do. And you start out, let me backtrack. You start out with figuring out what the goal is. And then you start with where they are the strongest in their nutrition. It's like, I'm really good at eating fruit. It's like, this is awesome. How about we replace 5 servings of fruit with 1 serving of vegetable? Do this for at least 2 weeks and then check back with me. And with these habits, it's the same. It's got to be practiced. And when I never change everything altogether, somebody comes in and says, here, what should I do? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. Give me the information, then I probably can make suggestions or recommendations. Now, I'm also not a dietitian, so I refer out when there's somebody with a health condition that I am not qualified to deal with. I can't do blood work, which I sometimes feel that the clients that I see need, and I can't provide that service, so I refer that out. I teach habits, eating habits, healthy eating habits, building healthy meals, and learning how to incorporate that into your lifestyle, which I find is really for most people I've come across, the biggest problem is how do I build a healthy meal? How does it fit into my lifestyle? How can I make a healthy meal if I don't know how to cook? How do I make a meal that the whole family will eat? How do I meal plan is a question I often get. If my family doesn't eat this, if I cook this, nobody eats it but me. Well, we got to figure out what everybody else, how we can get the family involved with this, that everybody's eating what's being cooked, which then ties into with how do I learn a cooking skill? With that said, this is habit building, changing how you viewed nutrition before. If you thought that cookies and crackers are a good snack, let's talk about that. We can find other things that we can replace that are equally delicious and satisfying.
Well, finding the substitution for cookies and cake is sometimes the challenge, but I understand what you're saying. There's certainly different things you can have. What do you recommend for fitness. I know you still do both strength training and the endurance sports, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And what do you advise? What advice would you give for us on that?
Cross training. Like we cross train our foods, we're cross training our body. Everybody that I work with, or all my programs, are based on strength training, cardiovascular fitness, and flexibility, and a lot of breathing. We were just talking about that yesterday, a lot of breath work. Bringing all of this together, again, as a holistic lifestyle. We're thinking, and of course, in my world, everybody in my world does Pilates. I've been teaching Pilates for over 22 years now, and everybody does Pilates in one form or fashion to help with the posture, which we all start suffering as we get older, and with core strength. So we're working as holistically together. And we're using the fewest amounts of equipment. Like you get your cardiovascular fitness by just running or walking, or do some jumping jacks if you choose to jump, but you can do them in low impact too. But you definitely need strength training to strengthen your bones. We're talking osteoporosis in our age group. We're talking menopause, where we need to really bone up our body and develop that strength, not only in in our muscles to do functional things like schlepping the plants for gardening, or picking up our groceries, to use a simpler example, and bringing that in. When you think about that, we need all of these components, and then flexibility. It's our muscles just get shorter as we get older and less flexible. And yes, you may not never be as flexible as you were hoping to be, because you said, oh, this stretching does not make me more flexible. But what's the opposite? What would it look like if you would never stretch? And the cool thing is Pilates incorporates stretching with strengthening. So you get two birds with one stone. Yeah. So again, every aspect of it, you have to, because we live longer. We want to live a better life. We want to chase after grandkids if we have them, and not sit in the rocking chair and just watch. We want to participate, or we want to travel. I mean, I love traveling. And when you think about once the gates are open and we can go travel, it's like schlepping suitcases, running maybe from terminal to terminal.
Yep.
We want to be healthier. We're not like our grandparents who didn't have this opportunity to, and the choices that we have now to get healthier, stay fit longer, and many of us don't do back-breaking work. So we can put that time in to stay healthy and fit.
Yeah, it's a different kind of back-breaking work when you're sitting in front of a computer for your job. And a lot of us have that type of job. So you have to think of different types of fitness and training. I like what you said about Pilates there. Two types of exercise in one.
Yep.
I noticed on your website, you have a starter guide to intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I assume for certain types of individuals, you recommend intermittent fasting. What would be that kind of person that you think would do well with it? And do you have some pointers for us?
So intermittent fasting, I started intermittent fasting about 2.5 years ago. And the reason I started fasting was I was training for a triathlon. I was busting my booty to get in shape. And normally what happens is during a training cycle, and I know you guys can relate to that, is that the more you train, the fitter you get, the leaner for the most part you get. You eat the same things to support your training, but because of the increased volume of exercise, you're starting to lean out and be fitter. Well, it didn't happen that time. So 2.5 years ago, I was training and I was actually getting not weight-wise heavier, but I got flabbier. And I was like, this is weird. And I was like, okay, let's dig around into this. And I was like, okay, I'm in menopause. I'm at the end of menopause, but that's really a big change. And I was tired and my stomach wasn't feeling great. And I said, all right, I got to change something. And that's when I came about intermittent fasting. as always, I was like, I'm really skeptical when it comes to new things that are unfamiliar to me, that I know very little about, and that promise you really awesome results. So I did research, and I looked at all the stuff that my certification provided when it comes to intermittent fasting. I read a whole bunch of books, and I said, all righty, I'm going to try this out. The best way is always to test it on yourself before you give it to the world. So I did my own 60-day intermittent fasting experience, and I logged everything I ate and the things I did for training and how I felt. Over the course of the 60 days, I got leaner. Yes, given that we're all at a certain age, or many of us, where the skin is just flabby. I mean, we're just getting older and the collagen is not there, and it is what it is. But
Right.
you can still be really strong and toned despite the fact of the aging, the onset of aging. And so I lost weight as a result of it, but more importantly, I felt better. I felt leaner. I felt stronger. I had more energy. My stomach was feeling better. I'm like, there's something to this. So that's how the quick guide came to be, the intermittent fasting quick guide, but also the 4-week lean out program. Because I felt that if I have the same trouble not getting leaner despite all my efforts, other women have the same problem. Now, how do we combine this and how do we do all this? There's a whole slew of things that we can do. But in essence, let me backtrack. The people that definitely shouldn't fast are somebody who's pregnant or somebody diabetic. So no fasting for that. These are people that shouldn't fast or intermittent fast and just do their thing. And especially when you have diabetes, you want to check with your doctor if you're thinking of doing intermittent fasting. But for most everybody, and especially for women over 50, I think fasting is amazing. Number one, it's super simple. In essence, it never is that simple, of course. In essence, you don't eat for a while. And a good example I always use is that when you go to bed, you eat your dinner, you don't have a snack afterwards, you go to dinner, and then you sleep through the night. And then you wake up in the morning and you have your breakfast. You already fasted. And it wasn't that difficult. You just slept through it. And that's how I like to build on fasting, that you start with something that is so doable. And then from there, you extend your fasting window. And I know there's so many protocols out there, the warrior fast and the 16-8 and the God knows what. And I said, you know what? I I like Heike's style of fasting. What does that mean? I took everything I learned and put it on a woman, myself, on a body that I would potentially work with to get the same results. Women shouldn't fast for 18 hours. Current research suggests 15 hours of fasting is the max based on the metabolism of a woman and the hormonal balance in the body, and they will see the best results in reducing fat. Now, when you're fasting, your stomach basically goes through to say it very simple, it gets a break. It just says, whoo, I'm so happy. Now I don't have to digest anything. I don't have to get any more food, and I can digest what I have. And then after 12 hours, your body breaks down old cells that are no longer working and builds new cells, which is called a process of autophagy. And that's so awesome, because how many of you listeners out there are dealing with bloating and upset stomachs since menopause started? Probably a lot. It's the gut doesn't digest, the system slows down. You either go to the bathroom a lot or you can't poop at all. So you have these scenarios, and intermittent fasting will help you with these problems, let's put it that way. But it comes with more than just that. So this will be in essence, when somebody starts fasting, just test it out. Grab the freebie and say, I'm going to try 2 of Heike's strategies. And all I do is I'm going to do a little bit of exercise, and I'm going to keep the fasting window and see if I can even be hungry. Because not everybody likes to be hungry. And it's a feeling that many associate with starving. But intermittent fasting is definitely not a starvation diet. It's simply a way of saying, I choose to eat here and I don't choose to eat there. And then it ties into, at least in my programs, with habit building, with building a healthy plate, with eating better nutrition, as we talked about earlier. So it all comes into play, but the person has to be ready to embrace the hunger for a little bit and that feeling of I can choose when to eat. I don't have to have breakfast. I don't have to have lunch at 12 noon. So it gives you a lot of freedom when you travel. Well, you're just hungry for a little while and you drink a lot more water to overcome that spurt. So there's so much I can talk about that. I hope I answered that question.
Did you say 15 hours max?
Yeah, that's what current research suggests. Women in our age shouldn't fast more than 15 hours. And this is based on intermittent fasting. This is not based on full day fasts or 3 or 4 day fasts or a water fast or a dry fast, which are completely different beasts. And they are advanced fasting techniques that should be done only under the supervision of a professional, like a doctor or a fasting expert.
What about exercising when you're fasting?
That's a trick question.
It's not meant to be honest. We aren't trying to trick you.
That's what my clients say. And my answer usually is, well, it depends. Well, when you think about when you start to fast, you're reducing your calories to a certain extent. And that will initially make you feel weaker. And that is something I'm very open about, because you see people that are fasting who are going hardcore Ironman, hardcore kettlebell training. And they're like, yeah, look, I'm ripped and I'm working out in a fasted state. Yeah, no, we'll forget about these people. That's not the norm. That's not us. I want people to continue exercising, but pay attention to how you feel. When you initially start fasting, I would back off on my regular training and go, okay, I'm going to do something a little bit less. I'm going to do some Pilates instead of my kettlebell or my dumbbell training. And I'm going maybe for an easy walk or run instead of a hard one, and see how the body adapts. Your body over time will adapt to the difference in when it gets nutrition, and again, how it is digested at that time when you're going through the fasting process. And ideally, you exercise before you eat. The idea behind that is that the body at this point in a fasted state, and that's where the leaning out comes in, uses energy from the fat you stored, not from the food you ate. So if you think that, I'm a good example. When we used to go out for a run in the morning, my husband's always like, oh, we got to have some food before we go run. And we would always have something little to help us through the run. And then we come back and we go about our lives. And then when I started intermittent fasting, I said, honey, I am not having breakfast. And he's like, you're not going to be able to do your run. And you're going to be really tired. And you're going to be really hungry. And you're not going to have energy. And I'm like, I'm trying this out for these 60 days. I can do this. So I don't eat breakfast anymore. And I don't eat before I exercise. My body has started to use the fat of my body as energy to fuel my workouts, instead of the nutrition that would be in my gut. perfect. I feel lighter. I have great energy doing my workouts, which some people say, oh, you don't. I'm like, I am like super awesome. I'm not tired at all. And I get leaner. I'm working on what I don't want is the extra fat storage in my body. And you just make a commitment to it. And again, I want to point out, if you are an elite athlete, you train very different than the normal little me. And totally different rules apply. But I think for most of us is people are like me. They work out, they train to a certain extent, and this has really made a big difference in my how I eat, when I eat, and how I deal with the whole being hungry business. I'm like, well, right now I'm talking to you, my stomach is growling. I'm like, yep, I should be eating at some point soon, but I'm not starving. I'm observing that hunger feeling, but it's not so at the point where I'm like, I need to eat right now. And I still have tons of energy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, this might be a little bit off topic, but you have more than 100 podcast episodes. How long have you been putting out your podcast?
A year and a half.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I do an episode every week. And at first I started out with just me, but then I got really bored. I'm a very social person. And I said, heck, I'm going to invite some guests on my podcast. It'd be fun to learn something and, get to meet new people on my podcast. And so, yeah, I only take a break in August where I take the whole month off. That's my no podcast month. And I put out an episode every week and love it when I have guests.
Great.
That's great.
And your podcast is called
Pursue Your Spark.
Pursue Your Spark. Well, if our listeners want to know more about you, where should they go?
They can find me anywhere by typing in Heike Yates, and that's HeikeYates. You can find me all over social media. On Facebook, I'm at Heike Yates, Pursue Your Spark, just to have a difference between my personal account and my Pursue Your Spark account. But if you Google me, you find me on Pinterest, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm everywhere. And you can find my website as well.
And what's your website?
HeikeYates.com.
Okay.
It's all super simple.
Great. We'll put that information in our show notes. It's been great talking with you, Heike. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yes, thank you so much.
It is my pleasure, Jill and Chris. This was so much fun. And again, I get to meet two awesome women with their own awesome podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, you take care. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was really great.
It was. That was a lot of information. And, we talk a lot about eating and fitness on our podcast, but not as much about the motivation and having the mindset to do these things. So I found that to be valuable.
Yeah, the whole part about scan I thought was really on point for me, particularly, here in the United States, we're about to go into Thanksgiving. And for many years, I thought of Thanksgiving as the eating holiday. Not that they're all eating holidays, but
they are. But Thanksgiving is certainly focused on food.
Right. And I think what I'm really going to focus on this year is being thankful for family, being thankful for my fitness and good health, and, really count my blessings.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year for everyone, I think. So sometimes finding that positive moment of thinking, yes, I am thankful for my health. I am thankful for my family is, it's a challenge at times, but you're right. I am. And you know what else? I think we talked about this a little bit with Heike, that we have technology now. Think about when people were in a pandemic, like in the 1918 thing. You did not have the ability to I am going to Zoom with my siblings
Right.
on
Yeah,
Thanksgiving. That was not an option in 1918. Really
exactly.
wasn't an option whether you were in a pandemic or not. You weren't Zooming with your relatives.
Right, right.
So I am grateful for the ability to maintain those contacts, even if you're not able to see each other.
Yeah, and being able to send photos back and forth in just an instant is also wonderful.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
yeah, yeah. So, are you doing anything fun this Thanksgiving?
I'm Zooming with my siblings.
Yeah.
um,
You're going
no,
to do a big Thanksgiving turkey burn of a
I am going to
workout
have
on
a
Thanksgiving
turkey
morning. Yeah,
and some, but
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I always like to do a good workout Thanksgiving morning. I don't know. When I say turkey burn, that's what they called it at my gym, where, they would burn off calories
right,
and not burn your turkey that you're cooking.
right, yes, yes. So, and this also used to be when people would do their turkey trot races.
Right.
But I was
Exactly.
thinking that maybe Thursday morning I would do a bike ride on my trainer, and
Oh,
I
excellent.
use Zwift, and I thought maybe I would do a Zwift ride Thursday morning.
Yeah, that would be a great way to celebrate the holiday for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. What
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I think I'll do a workout of some sort, probably take a walk. That's been my big workout activity since biking outside has become difficult with the weather. Today we have what's known as a wintry mix, which is, you know, so the sun isn't guaranteed to shine. So I love the idea of having an indoor trainer, but I really love getting out with nature, and it's part of feeling thankful.
Yes, I agree. I understand that. So if it's nice out, I will probably also do a walk, but
Yeah.
otherwise I'm thinking bike ride.
Yep. Yep. Sounds good. Sounds good.
So have a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope our listeners do too who are celebrating.
We'll look forward to the next podcast.
Yep. See you then.
Bye bye now.
Bye.